chinchini ema yekopie mu ewo eye yam festival ewo Volta region eye afasha omudi na omodekai omochi eye yie bia na se afi bia ombe dey yibisim bia no omo celebrate eye this festival na enrada eye stronko na stronko a eye ene se eye Professor Jinana ede nanu nyam koye de ekotechiri for the first time eja okoye ekukujina omampani John Dramani Mahama anemu na wei ena eye ohene kese a wo anase na oda eye afahye no eye nana anaso no nyamfo Togbe Afede ode nsem bi de etudwa na ne nsem mu no ena na o kire say nani age se aban yi eba no eye NDC government eba no omode BBA friend Ora Operation Recover All ebaye se omode ba na omode abeje eye enioma eye aban dada NPP government no omu agi free Ghana for ho ene nioma bia omo ye do ma Ghana ye hweye omo ba be ye dey omo ba beje omade na o hye se hwe nani age nenso e wo se aban ni gina ne na so e wo se aban ni ye dey like okeka no ho na saa nioma we no ye dey yensetim ye dey eka if you say or the statistics be the eto ho eka say every year bia no so hwemu a hwehwemu am ye hu say corruption nti Ghana lose over $3 billion dollars na say enye easy enye easy 3 billion na IMF cry compare say ho so hu na say corruption no edi nyapa nti o say aban no nyina ne na so na omonye dey omonje saa nioma ne se ne be ye de bebo aban no ho anase ye de bebo Ghana ho bra ode nsem bebre dey etudwa abra na ode na ndi sem ye dey etudwa enko ne konkoti ye nsem a owura anase unonyamfo na papa bi Togbe Afede editudwa ba subscribe like jubedi ni share nyama afoforo so ensanka be kindly click on the notification bell no so send be any news bia eto platform no so awon so wo hunu de echo and de ba yenko ne konkoti
and that the Gold Coast did not know much about what is called corruption. But recently, we seem to have succeeded in making the beautiful name Ghana almost synonymous with the word corruption. And that is why I like ORA, the Operation Recover All Loot. And I want to commend the government for it and to encourage the government to stay the course and to recover all that has been looted from the state's coffers. Of course, corruption is not limited to the public sector. It's been a very, very, very pervasive phenomenon across our country. And most entrepreneurs, private businessmen will tell you that their biggest challenge is that of corruption. Everything that we can do to end corruption in our system or to minimize it will all be steps in the right direction. Will all be steps in trying to create the right environment for our development. As I said, the little I've learned suggests that corruption was mostly unknown in pre-independence Ghana. But it looks like post-independence, many of our educated elite have taken the advantage of their positions and have brought about a new scramble for our limited resources, replacing our colonial masters. And as I've always said, the corrupt in our society are like termites at our woodwork, eating at the very foundations of our development. Again, the lack of respect to the truth is what has allowed corruption to fester. That is why we have chosen honesty and truth as themes for this year's Yam Festival. We hope we can lead a crusade through our Anti-Corruption Day celebration to rid our nation of the canker of corruption. Your Excellency, the lack of respect for the truth and therefore the consequent corruption has harmed our country in many ways. Of course, corruption undermines our development and undermines our democracy, I've said already. It's the reason we have acrimony in our politics. We learned recently that our nation loses about $3 billion to corruption every year. We learned that from Transparency International. So we know what that means. $3 billion would have provided a lot of the infrastructure we need. The hospitals, the schools, the airports, the roads, etc., that we need for our development. But those have found their ways into private pockets. It is the cost of the inflation that we've suffered over the years. And so the cost of the currency depreciation that has become our lot in the foreign exchange markets. It's the reason why our nation almost became bankrupt a couple of years ago, unable to service its debts. And it's the reason why we suffer from a lot of infrastructure deficit. And worse still, the reason why a lot of work that has been started have been abandoned. Again, that is why I love the big push with the emphasis on completing all abandoned projects. Low productivity in our country is a result of corruption, the lack of respect for the truth. Corruption discourages hard work and stifles initiative. Even the phenomenon of galamsey can be attributed to corruption. All of us who watch unconcerned, all of us who forsake galamsey, all of we the chiefs who look on while our lands are destroyed, are responsible for the galamsey that has become a big threat to our survival. Again, is a result of lack of truth in our communities. I'm a slave to optimism, Your Excellency, and that is why I believe that we can defeat this canker of corruption. It's been said that it's a very dangerous animal. When you try to fight it, it will fight you back. But I still believe we can fight it and do so successfully. It will require accountability. If we can emphasize accountability on the part of those of us in responsible positions, we shall begin to tackle corruption. That is why asset declaration is very important. And that is why the President's emphasis on declaration of assets by his appointees is a step in the right direction. Again, we can fight corruption by strengthening our constitution to make corruption unattractive. Again, that is why I like the idea of reviewing our constitution. And I think in doing so, we also have to take care of the need to ensure that we make corruption unattractive. Of course, laws don't enforce themselves. When the laws are in place, they must be enforced. So enforcement of our various laws also is very important in encouraging adherence to the path of honesty, and therefore discourage people from resorting to dipping their hands into the nation's coffers to find short ways to richness. Your Excellencies, I also believe that corruption is a result of the cronyism and the tribalism that has become part of our society. We can fight cronyism and we can fight corruption. Of course, corruption, cronyism, and tribalism work hand in hand. We need to break the chain. Tribalists are typically seen as safe partners in corruption, and so are cronies. Therefore, fighting corruption will be a good way to fight cronyism, and vice versa. Fighting corruption will also be a way to fight tribalism, and vice versa. Very importantly, Your Excellency, we have to ensure that our institutions, particularly those that are there to fight corruption, work. So we have to work to ensure that we strengthen all of our institutions, in particular the likes of the judiciary, the YOCO, that's Economic and Organized Crimes Organization, of course, the Office of the OSP. All of them need strengthening to ensure that we are all encouraged to pursue the path of strictest honesty in all of our work, both in the private sector and in the public sector. All said, Your Excellency, Togbe, Mahama, ladies and gentlemen, the best solution to the canker of corruption demands a change in our attitudes. People's indifference is the best breeding ground for corruption. If we all can become very concerned, if we all can stop glorifying wealth without any interest in how it's acquired, if we can question those in our communities who obviously live beyond their means, we shall all become part of the fight against corruption, and therefore compel people to stick to the truth, the path of strictest honesty in their conduct in both public and private life. It requires again that we all are involved, both the young and the elderly, men and women. People of all ages and persuasions will have to get involved in fighting the canker of corruption. It also requires that we all work very hard so we can earn genuine wealth. As I've always said, poverty is manufactured in bed. We'll sacrifice a bit of our sleep because we cannot sleep as if we are competing with the dead and expect to make it in the world of the living. Let's also remember the words of Shakespeare. He says, "No legacy is so rich as honesty." Let honesty be the best legacy we can leave for our children and for generations unborn. Let us not allow our children to see corruption as normal, shortcuts to wealth as normal and as legitimate. Let us try to discourage the acceptance of corruption as part of our culture. It is so sad that we are so religious, yet we fail to respect the truth. Yet we fail to appreciate honesty. Sometimes the most honest in our society are the most vilified. We are so religious, yet we fail to accept what is true. Yet we fail to celebrate the honest people in our society. We celebrate the rich, no matter how they acquire their wealth. I once again ask the Holy Spirit to descend on us, touch our hearts, and instill in us the values of truth and honesty, so we can live by the tenets of our Constitution and cherish fearless honesty, so we can live by the vows that we make when we say our national pledge and remain loyal to our country. I believe when we do all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, we shall find a pathway to fighting corruption by first of all accepting truth and honesty as the best way of life. Over the past several weeks, we have witnessed very exciting events which form part of this year's Yam Festival. And to thank all who have made those events very successful. We had a youth empowerment event through which we sought to educate our youth, empower them, and build into them entrepreneurial spirit that will make them business creators and employees and employers of the teeming citizens that we are churning out of school yearly. We also had a Women's Day where we honored our women, recognized the role they play in our society, and also educated them on opportunities that are still available for them to contribute even more to national development. Then the president came along and surprised us with a big push, an agenda that has gladdened the hearts of many Voltarians because of the critical place the road sector has in the Big Push agenda. And of course, the emphasis that is placed on the Volta region roads and the fact that the Big Push agenda is launched and of course commences activity in the Volta region. Then came along the TDC, the Madiboma Corporation, with the great news of their embarkment on residential estate development across the country, starting from Ho. That was indeed great news for us. We also had the health work that attracted people from far and near, from Ghana and from abroad. And also the Teiru Carnival, which has assumed indeed very international dimensions. The Bob Festival was also a great success, through which we demonstrated our great culture, in particular, showcase our Bobo dance to the rest of the world. Only last Thursday, we had the Aŕڕێst Summit, which brought chiefs from Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. These are all Aŕڕێst chiefs who are committed to uniting Aŕڕێst chiefs behind the common agenda of bringing development to our people. And for us, the initiators, it's supposed to be the foundation for the realization of our goal of bringing all the chiefs of Africa together to pursue the cause of development along the lines of the AU, and therefore to make the AU's work more easy. The AU develops policies in Addis Ababa. The AU needs channels by which those policies can find way to the grassroots and therefore to have effect at the grassroots. And that is why we have sought to establish eventually an African Traditional Leadership Union. And the summit we had of Aŕڕێst chiefs on Thursday is supposed to be one of the building blocks for that. After all, charity, they say, begins at home. Then we had the most exciting of them all, the Anti-Corruption Day. The Anti-Corruption Day, which has come to stay in the Yam Festival calendar.
Ugusua Oshe Jumedino Edmayana or Famienu and yede Abram no messer one subscribe like Jumedian share Nema Afro and so and sa in can kindly click on the notification bell no so send be any news be to platform no so also well no the airco and the eba POG Media de yenya kase ebesom akosi eye awie na DHI na yenkonkotie eye ofamienu abra Togbe Afede odensam dodo na etudwa.
Taking inspiration from my personal experiences. As a young student, I had a lot of difficulty financially going through school. And secondly, when I eventually made it to the US for my master's program, I returned immediately after completing my education without having worked in the US for 1 day, meaning I made no savings in the United States and I acquired no properties in the United States. And still, I don't have any properties abroad, which means therefore that my fortunes are inextricably linked to the fortunes of our nation, Ghana. And for which reason, thank you. And for which reason I abhor all obstacles to the development of Ghana. One of those obstacles we identified is corruption. Corruption has been a stumbling block to our development. And it is the result of our inability to hold on to the path of truth, the path of strictest honesty. That is why the theme for today's debate focuses on honesty, focuses on unity, peace, and prosperity. Together in unity and prosperity, we build a just, peaceful, prosperous nation. That is the theme for this year's Yam Festival. Emphasis on the link between honesty and prosperity. Honesty and respect of the truth are very important for development. That is why when we say our national anthem, we ask God to help us to cherish fearless honesty. And that is why when we recite our pledge, the national pledge, we vow faithfulness and loyalty to Ghana. Again, the importance of truth is a reason why many great institutions of higher learning focus on the truth in defining what their motto is. At the University of Ghana, we talk about proceed with integrity. At the Commonwealth Hall, where I spent 4 good years at the University of Ghana, we talk about truth stands. Yale University talks about light and truth. And their rivals, Harvard, talk about truth. Therefore, truth is very important and is recognized everywhere as an important ingredient in development. Development is important because it brings prosperity. It brings better life. It brings jobs. And it brings happiness. And happiness is the essence of life. Our common desire as a people is for happiness. And that is recognized by our founding fathers who believed that we were capable of managing our own affairs to bring about the happiness that our people desire. Again, our 1992 Constitution also recognizes the importance of happiness and therefore enjoins the state to ensure that our national economy is managed very well to bring development to the people, to bring happiness to the people, and to ensure that all enjoy good standard of living without discrimination. It is also the reason why development must be the focus of all of us who call ourselves leaders. And by that, I include traditional leaders, our politicians, our corporate leaders. We all must show commitment to the development of our nation. Development is so important to our people that if we have to be relevant as chiefs, as political leaders, as corporate leaders, we'll have to ensure that our work brings the development and the happiness that our people desire. And all the ingredients are there, Your Excellency, distinguished gentlemen. all the ingredients are there to ensure that our nation develops. We have an abundance of natural resources, and we have in abundance the most critical of them all, good human resources, young and growing population that should ensure that Ghana must be able to provide a good future that brings happiness to all of its people. Your Excellency, the reality, however, is that our lot over the years has been poverty. We recently saw how prices of all goods were increasing in this country. And we saw a lot of instability in the foreign exchange markets, with the cedi losing a lot of its value. We saw how the nation became almost bankrupt, unable to pay its debts, which has been very disgraceful for us as a country, as the Black Stars of Africa. The consequence of all of these things have been very bad for us. We have seen desperation among our youth. We have seen an upsurge in the crime rate. We've also seen a resort to migration by our people in search of greener pastures. They have grown to appreciate more xenophobic isolation abroad to a stifling lifestyle back at home. And as I said recently, if the doors of foreign countries were open, it's a case that many of our people will aspire to emigrate to those countries. We also saw an increase in the suicide rate. Last year, about 134 of our citizens took their own lives. These are all the consequences of the desperation I talked about. The fact that we've not been able to bring development and the happiness that our people desire. I see the main cause as corruption, the root cause of which is the lack of respect for the truth. And that is why, again, our theme for this year's festival emphasizes truth, emphasizes honesty, and looks at them as very important for our development. The lack of respect for the truth, Your Excellency, is a result of the divisiveness that we have seen over the years. It's a cause of the acrimony in our politics. And of course, it's the cause of the corruption that has become very prevalent. The thievery that the government is currently fighting to rid the system of.
Ajebo ja enya ba bidro ha ene ye den nsem no ebesi ede ma subscribe ya subscribe like dwumade ne share nema afoforo enso ensa enye den enkabi and kindly click on the notification bell no so send be any news be at platform no so awon so wahunu de echo ene de ba Ghana be fan ntoma pefra ene ntina POG Media de be den nsem pa no ede ebrem no makram.